So how'd you get into music in the first place? How'd you get started?
As a music's always been a part of my life, I guess, because my parents thought it was really important for me and my brother to be in music. So we took piano lessons as kids, and then later on I got into drums and played drums through high school. I did drumline with that, and eventually just got into guitar. I've been playing for like 5 years now, guitar, and haven't taken a lesson. Just taught myself. I'm not really much for structure or someone else telling you how to learn something. So, yeah, that's sort of the origin story in a nutshell of how I got into music.
When did you start singing? Because you mentioned drums and piano and everything.
Yeah, I just started singing, actually, let's see, I've been involved in a couple like worship gigs with worship bands, and that was something that was really good and formative to my experience as a musician, like playing with bands. And that's an environment you hear about a lot of musicians with that get started with like church music or religious music, and it's because it's an environment where like people who are younger can be brought together into bands and experience playing with other people. So I experienced that for a while and sang and played guitar in a band like that for every week for a solid like 2.5 years, and just really got my chops down on that. Um, yeah, and I still do the occasional worship gig, but largely into more more original music now.
So you started with Sink the Bismarck in 2011, and were with them till last summer. So how did you grow as a musician with your time with them?
So Sing the Bismarck was kind of it was an interesting project because my philosophy in sort of life in general is fake it till you make it. So I had no idea how to, form a band. I had barely written any songs, and I just bought this one microphone that was a USB direct into the computer, and because I'm a fake it till you make it kind of guy, I just started recording songs and started recording because I played all these different instruments. I played bass and guitar and drums, and I played everything necessary, keyboard, and I played everything necessary for an album. So I literally just made it like. The first album from Sink the Bismarck was just me. There was no one else on it. It was just like a bunch of experiments that I put together on an album, and was like so many people were like, "What? Like what? We didn't even know that you like recorded music or anything." And I just put it out, and so that was definitely a growing experience experimenting with that. And then after that album came out, that was kind of an acoustic project for a while. That was just me, and then I started bringing on horn players and hand drummers to play acoustically with me, and then a band kind of formed around that. So in the fall, I guess that was the fall of 2011 and the spring of 2012, we played several gigs as a full band, but we had just so many lineup changes. I'm pretty sure, I'm trying to think, I think the most gigs we played consecutively with the same lineup was just 2 in a row. Like other than that, we were always cycling someone in, and they had to learn like the whole catalog, and it was so much work for the amount of reward we were getting from it. So that was super formative in learning about like, yeah, this is how musical projects work. Some people are gonna come and go, and it just, by the end of it, it just really felt like a lot of work for the amount we were getting out of it. So I elected to disband that project and start what we're working on now.
Could you talk a little bit more about what influenced you? I know you mentioned that the people kept changing, and you just said it was a lot of work, but could you talk more specifically? Was there ever a moment or a show where you're like, I just don't want to do this as a band anymore? Or?
It was a progressive process. There was, let's see, it was probably after the last spring, about a year ago, I put out the second Sink the Bismarck record. That was the Remembering a Former Glory, and for that show we had like a 5-man band that we put together, and we just could not get everybody practiced enough to where they could get, but in the end the show has to go on, and we played the show and everyone came out and had fun and liked it, but I was not satisfied at all with the quality of the music, and it was probably at that moment I was like, I need to transition back to doing something myself and really like make sure that the quality of it is as high as it can be, because this is largely, it felt kind of like, I wrote these songs and this was my art, so I wanted to make sure that my art was put out there in the best form possible. and sort of creating a giant band that couldn't have the time to practice together was not the best way to do that. So.
What was different this time around working on Mimes in Traffic, now as a solo artist, and even just as a more mature musician?
The funny thing about Mimes in Traffic is, first off, I named it that on a dare. So I took myself a lot less seriously this time around. Second, I have a lot more experience recording. So the first version, the soft release version of Mimes in Traffic, is entirely recorded and produced by me. And then in the next probably month or month and a half, I'm releasing a remastered version of that that's been mastered by Andrew Brooks, who is a local musician that a lot of people probably know. Plays with a lot of bands around here. But sort of Mimes in Traffic, the interesting thing was I recorded an entire album that was going to be Mimes in Traffic over last summer. I took like 3 summer classes and it was super busy, and then right after that I just had nothing to do, and I was like, now's the time to do it. I have all this material, like I'm going to do it myself. So I was house sitting for my parents, and I just ripped their house apart and set up a studio in it without telling them. So I don't know if they'll see this or not, but I did that and I recorded this whole record. It took me probably like 2 weeks, and like 2 weeks of 9 to 5 every day. And I got to the end and I was mixing it and doing all that with it, and I just absolutely hated it. I hated everything about it and what I was doing, so I threw the entire thing away. And that was, I threw the entire thing away, and I'd been pumping up, like, yeah, the record, I'm working on the record, on, like, the web presence, and then all of a sudden on the web presence I'm just like, yeah, I threw away that record I've been pumping this whole time. And then I just pursued a lot more simple of a sound, because that was what I set out to do, and then, you think, oh, this would sound cool and that would sound cool, and you start adding everything in, and then all of a sudden you're back to almost that full band sound that you were leaving behind. So I resolved that, there's only going to be one guitar on every track, there's only going to be one drum on every track, and there's only going to be tambourine on every track, and like that's the instrumentals you get to work with. Now be an artist, and here's your palette, and do it. So I did that, and after having to take a lot more time to do that and mix it, I did the original soft release in November for Mimes in Traffic. So it was definitely a different experience. I was a lot more committed to making it feel like an album and like the artistic challenge of it, instead of just trying to get a band together and put something out.
Do you think when you were with your first band that the process of recording went very similar, where it was more you doing the work, or do you think it was a different experience having a community of people?
Certainly for the first record was just me on the Take Me to Portugal, that first record. And then on Remembering a Former Glory, we recorded that together as a band. And there's actually another crazy story about that. We were having so much trouble because we had a bass player at the time who was an amazing live musician but didn't have any experience in the studio. And so the difference between studio and live playing is that live playing you have a lot more leeway to do stuff, but you can also cover up your mistakes a lot better. Whereas in the studio, if you make even the slightest mistake, like, it's there for the whole world to see and play over and over and over again. So studio musicians have to make it simpler, tighten it up, and make it really, really good sounding to be listened to over and over again. And our bass player was not good at that at all. So we failed over and over and again tracking these songs. And eventually we accidentally, because we weren't familiar with the technology we were using, wiped all of our work that we'd done for like 4 days. And had this big like bonding like pit of despair moment where we were just like, all right, we're gonna put our shoulder to the grindstone and finish this thing. So that was a cool kind of like bonding experience over that. But then towards the end of recording that, like, class was starting. That was last January of 2012, and class was starting and people were getting busy. So I again had to sort of pick up the slack on the back end and do that. So yeah, with Mimes in Traffic, it was just me. So.
Can you talk a little bit about what else is different with working by yourself than when you were with your first band?
The cool thing is I can, when I'm playing by myself, I can schedule practice for 3 in the morning and I don't have to call anybody to show up. It's a lot more, it's a process that lends itself well to introverts, and it's somebody who's contemplative and thinks about, thinks even about what they're thinking and what they're doing. It's a process that lends itself well to that. So as opposed to playing with a band, every time you write something, there's a every time you play it, it's kind of recreated. It's never the same twice, and that's something philosophically that I believe about music, is that music is not a static experience. Like, even if you're playing the same songs with the same notes in the same place, like one time after the other, the two times are going to be different inherently as experiences. So, yeah, it's, again, the experience of it is differing when you're playing by yourself, but it differs so much more because you add so much more human dynamics in there with other people. So I guess by myself, it's a lot more of a personal challenge and a lot less of a people management kind of feel.
With you planning on graduating this July and being a family enterprise major, do you plan on pursuing this musically as a career, or do you want to do something with business, or?
That's a good question. What I'm gonna do? I'm somebody who's pretty comfortable with ambiguity, which is kind of weird, I guess. I definitely want to freelance for as long as I possibly can. I like writing. I'm big into writing. I'm big into music, obviously. I've got some fingers and toes in some entrepreneurial projects. I'm big into the idea of green business, social entrepreneurship, a lot of stuff like that. So I just want to work with that for as much time as I can, and just sort of pursue that. I mean, I think that's as specific of a direction as I need personally. So.
If say the music thing really started to pick up and started working out more and more, would you be comfortable doing that full time? Or?
Oh, yeah, I would entirely be comfortable doing that full time. I wouldn't be comfortable doing it full time for all of my working life, just because I feel like there comes a point when, like, yes, the traveling life is good and you get to see a lot of stuff, but I think that spiritually humans long to be in a community, and that you kind of got to put your roots out and plant yourself somewhere to really get that. So, yeah, I would definitely do it for as long as possible. And again, that would be another cool way to meet a lot of people who are interested in the same things as you, and you can pursue those other opportunities in writing or business or entrepreneurship or whatever. So yeah, I would definitely be open to that possibility.
You mentioned traveling in that element, and this is a career. Have you toured a lot already, or do you mainly play local events?
Let's see. My range thus far has been from West Palm Beach to Jacksonville. That would be my north-south spread. And then the most traveling I've done, I haven't done any real touring, but I do some out-of-town gigs. But I've never really strung anything together into a tour. That's something that I'm looking forward to having the time to do.
Do you think you're gonna do that after graduation, or?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I can throw together a little summer tour this summer. That's what's great about playing by yourself, is you don't have to worry about getting everybody else together. You can just grab one friend to make sure you don't get robbed and run the merch table, and just go out and venture off into the world and see who you can share your music with.
What else lies ahead for you this year, musically? Do you plan on releasing more, or working on more album, more performing from rhymes, or?
A lot more shows. A lot more shows. I'd put my nose to the grindstone on recording for a long time, and especially with this remastered version, I feel really good about Mimes in Traffic. So I feel like I can ride that recording for a good long while. I mean, and the thing about me is I'm the kind of person who, a lot of people like to write all at once and then take a season off from writing and then write all at once. So they'll have like a recording season of the year, and then they'll have a touring season of the year when they're not writing. But I write at a constant rate, so I already have like material for another album if I wanted it. But that's not what I'm looking to do right now. I'm looking to get out there and share that with people. So a lot more shows, maybe some kind of live record or live video of a show, but principally just getting out there, getting in front of people, and playing live.
Is there any other part of your story you think is relevant, or any other questions I should have asked? Or?
I guess explaining why I chose the stage name I did for Mike the Prophet. I mean, I enjoy things that have multiple meanings. So first off, my name's Mike, so that would be like Mike is the prophet. Then also you have mic is spelled M-I-C, as in microphone. So that points to, I'm defining prophet not as somebody who's a seer or somebody who's, you know, going to predict the future, but as somebody who looks at what's wrong and what's right with the way things are today, and calls people out who need calling out, and supports people who need supporting, the kind of voice that, you know, when you really look at the Old Testament, you see that. But yeah, so advocating hopefully that I would be that person, as in Mike the prophet, and then miking those people, as in giving them the voice that they need to have, because spiritually, to me, that's something I think is really important. So,
how much has religion played a role in your music? Because you mentioned the Old Testament, and you mentioned your spirituality.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the spiritual factors influence everything I do. I still am really big into traditional church music. I have songs that I actually have a song on Mimes in Traffic that at the end of it kind of goes into this spacey. It's called Land of Rest, which is actually named after a tune that has several hymns to it. It's from like 1815 or something like that. I don't know if it's Pritchard or who it is, but that's besides the point. I have a song called Land of Rest that I wrote based on that tune, and at the end of it, it kind of goes into this weird shuffle feel, and then it just sort of trips over itself, and it just turns into that hymn. And so the last two verses of it are actually just verses taken directly from that hymn. So hymnists and the poetry that they have, and the poetry that it says about everyday life is something that is really important to me. Yeah, but I wouldn't say that my music is religious per se. Yeah, I mean, I don't like to draw that line. I mean, if it's a religious experience for some people, it can be, and if it's not for other people, then it can be that to them. I mean, it's once I've put it out there, it's not mine anymore. It belongs to them. So.
All right, do you want to go ahead and play?
Yeah, sure. Fire this puppy up. Alright, and this song is off of the upcoming and past record, the upcoming sort of web presence of it, re-release of Mimes in Traffic, and this is The Truth in These Lies. Upon the realization all my heroes have been and I've come to no conclusion. The rationalization my creations undergo is antithetical at best to a solution. But shining like a patience undergoes a transformation, me or a philosophical pollution. Without the crushing weight of this excruciating hate, there wouldn't be a barrier to resolution. Oh, when I sing, yeah, it's not words, oh, it's suffering, it's a song. Oh, you know that I'm just another one of them. Well, it's a fine line, cancer crossing, but enjoy the oh. Well, don't tell me a lie, yeah, all the lies that you show could have more truth than any otherwise know. Oh, oh. To be counted among the